Hello and welcome to my new webinar series called Travel Better. My name is Hannah and I'm a travel agent who's specializing in sustainable and responsible adventure travel. I'm really excited to share with you some suppliers that I work with who are doing some incredible things in the tourism industry. Today, we're really lucky to have Kazundra Brown with us, who's from Intrepid Travel. Intrepid is the largest B-Corp certified travel business in the world. So I'm really excited to share with you some of their incredible trips and to talk about some of their sustainability initiatives. So thanks, Kaz, for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah, for having me. Very excited to be on your webinar series.
So tell us a little bit about Intrepid and how incredible you guys are.
Yeah, so it's a really exciting company to be a part of. I've been with Intrepid now for the past 5 and a bit years. And before that, I also traveled with Intrepid and I worked with Intrepid as a travel advisor like yourself. And as you mentioned, we're the world's largest travel B Corp, but we're also the world's largest adventure travel company. And we talk about adventure. Adventure means something different to everyone. And I know sometimes people think, oh, adventure, I'm not an adventure traveler, but I assure you almost everyone is, because it could mean eating your way through Italy. It could mean hiking in Nepal. It could mean trying street food for the first time. There's lots of different ways to look at adventure, but we operate small group tours. We're all across the globe, all 7 continents, over 100 different countries. And we're really focused on the local immersive travel experience, and sustainability is at the forefront of everything that we do. So at Intrepid, we like to say that our travelers are curious and we're looking for that real life experience. So if you like to taste and touch and smell and get culturally immersed and try something new, then you're definitely an Intrepid traveler in my eyes.
That's awesome. I love that you say that anyone is an adventure traveler, because you're so right. You know, there's so many different ways that you can experience the world. And, you know, it doesn't mean you have to trek like 1,000 miles or cycle up this giant mountain. You can do a lot of things.
Exactly. Yeah, with Intrepid, because we're talking about sustainability today, I'll go into a little bit about our journey with purpose. So every day at Intrepid is an exciting day, of course, during these times during the pandemic, but otherwise, we've been around since 1989. So we've been around for 32 years, so pretty long time doing what we do. And back in 1998, after being established for about 10 years, we were the first tour operator with a responsible travel department, which now almost every company has a responsible travel department. So we got in there really early because it was important to what we operated. We introduced our Intrepid Foundation, which we'll talk about in 2002. In 2008, we became a UN Global Compact signatory. In 2010, so way before it was the cool thing to do, we became a carbon neutral company. In 2014, we actually did something that was pretty out there and wild. So in 2014, we were operating widely across the globe, but in Asia, we had a ton of trips, especially in places like Thailand, Southeast Asia, India, Cambodia, etc. And elephant riding was a common practice on trips in Southeast Asia. And we operated elephant riding trips. It was an activity that everyone did. One traveler actually contacted Intrepid and said, I don't think this is a great thing that you should be doing. So we partnered with World Animal Protection, went into Thailand where we were operating these activities, and we went into all the different orphanages, elephant sanctuaries, elephant tourism attraction sites to see if there was a way that it could be done, like looking in a way that was humane and in a way that the animals were taken care of and that had a positive impact. And of course, there just wasn't. There wasn't an option to do that responsibly and in a humane manner. So we decided to ban elephant rides on all of our tours. It was a big step. And nowadays, you'll find that most operators that you work with, or as a traveler, when you're looking at experiences, elephant riding isn't really a thing for the most part.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big stance, but it just takes one person to make a difference, which is kind of the theme of today as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not to say, I mean, many travelers have, done these experiences without knowing, but I think when we're educated about the decisions that we make and we're traveling with sustainable tour operator, booking through people like yourself, Hannah, we're more empowered to make those positive decisions.
No, that's absolutely right. I think education is a huge piece. So you're right. Once you know more, then we should do better for sure.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I think something that's really just fun and speaks to Intrepid is why we do what we do. And our mission is to really create positive change through the joy of travel, because there's so much that we can learn about different cultures and countries. And for myself, I really think that a lot of the fear and I guess different things in the world that hold people back from traveling or ignorances that we have is just based on the fact that we just don't know much about different cultures, and getting out there and traveling, experiencing different ways of life can not only help you be more educated, but more tolerant and respectful and have a greater perspective on the world.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So I know that Intrepid has a couple different styles of travel. Do you want to talk about a couple of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, we traveled all 7 continents. When we travel with Intrepid, it's a little bit different than your typical tour and sightseeing experience. And all of our experiences are immersive. We're trying to get under the surface of a destination. We hope that you try something new. You maybe push your comfort zone, your boundaries a little bit. We travel in small groups. So when we travel with our groups, they're usually about 10 people in a group, really small, really intimate. And it ensures that we can travel down back alleys safely. We can eat at small mom and pop restaurants. We can stay in really unique accommodation. And you get that undivided attention from your local leader, who's there as your on-ground support, but also your language consultant, and they help you barter at the markets and give you access to all these unique experiences. Which leads me back to the fact that adventure is for everyone. So we have a wide array of themes. You can do one of our culturally immersive experiences. We call them explorer style trips, but if you have a special interest like cycling, or maybe you're a big foodie, or perhaps you love to be on the water and you want to do a marine trip or a sailing trip, we also offer a wide array of themes. So if you think about like Italy is one country, but you could cycle through Italy. You can eat right through Italy. You can bring your little ones on a family trip through Italy. You can do a sailing trip along the Amalfi Coast. There's so many different ways to see Italy at Intrepid. So it's pretty fun.
Oh, I mean, I love Italy. So yeah, I would see Italy in like 1,000 different ways if I could. That's awesome.
And you mentioned those styles. So with Intrepid, adventure is not one size fits all either. So we have 4 levels: basics, original, comfort, and premium. And this is great for finding the right fit for you as an individual, because I don't know what maybe your budget is, your style of accommodation that you're looking for, maybe the number of inclusions, because a basic style trip is going to be more like a good solid framework. You have a guide, your local leader, you have some transport included, you have your accommodation, some activities, some meals, but a lot more free time. The trips are a little more budget friendly. And then when you move all the way up to the premium, that's when you'll have our more premium accommodations. You'll have more meals and activities included. It'll be a smaller group, so we cap those trips at 12, so always less than 12. You'll need a bit of a higher budget with this trip, but it's a more fully rounded experience overall. So if I take you, Hannah, to Kenya and Tanzania, okay, on a 10-day trip, we're arriving in Kenya and Tanzania. If you're on a basics trip, this is your pure overland experience. It's so much fun, but we are traveling overland. We are camping for the majority of our experiences. We're camping in Serengeti National Park, Ngorongoro Crater, really up close and personal to animals, participatory cooking and camping with your group. Fun for some, maybe not for others.
Not for everyone.
Right? Original will camp on that 10-day trip, maybe 2 nights in Serengeti National Park. So you get that incredible 5 billion star experience. Comfort, we never camp on the ground. So you've got your permanent camps and your lodges, your resorts, hotels. And then premium is where we step it up to that premium level with those beautiful safari lodges and resorts, private 4x4 safari vehicles in the national parks and things like that.
So with the premium trips, being more like maybe more accommodation intensive, like in terms of sustainability, how do you make sure that the trips are all sort of equally sustainable?
Yeah, so at Intrepid, we really take the guesswork out of it for our travelers. So behind the scenes at the base level, we are 100% carbon offset across the board. So all of the trains, planes, automobiles, and carbon emissions that we're emitting on our trips are taken care of for our travelers. When we talk about sustainability at Intrepid, it's not just about the environment, it's also about the people that we impact. So hiring and training and employing local people, having our local offices and destination around the world. So for example, we have an office in Cairo and an office in Marrakesh and an office in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, to have that really embedded relationship with the destination, with the people on the ground. And then when it comes to the trips, just because we have premium trips doesn't mean sustainability goes to the wayside. So for example, we're still traveling very small. We're really mindful about what we're doing, the experiences are having a positive impact on local people. We try to include some activities that will work with either wildlife protection or with environmental projects. And I'll give you some examples as well. And then also we're also trying to reduce some of those carbon emissions additionally by trialing electric vehicles for arrival transfers in places like Iran, Jordan. And we also stay in some accommodations at the premium level that are also carbon neutral, which I'll show you later too.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's awesome. Well, good to know that like sort of across the board, you've got a lot of sustainability initiatives that are constantly working on every aspect of the trip.
Absolutely, Hannah. And it's not perfect and never will be, but we are always aiming to get better.
Cool. Well, tell us more about Intrepid Premium. I know this is a relatively new sort of level of trip that you guys introduced a few years ago. So yeah, I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, so Premium was developed and we brought it into Intrepid in 2021 because we know there's an emerging market of travelers who are socially and environmentally conscious or would like to travel that way, but they do need an upgraded level of accommodation, just a little more comfort when they're traveling, and perhaps a higher service level. So when we talk about that Africa experience, there are people that they want to travel positively, they want to make a great impact, they want to have a really unique immersive experience, but they're not willing to camp. Totally get that.
I get
so
that.
That's kind of where our premium comes in. Age is really just a number. So our travelers come from all walks of life, all nationalities, and they're curious. We find that as you go up to the comfort level and premium, the age of the traveler does mature a little bit, but that's not to say that you won't find a 20-year-old on this trip or a 30-year-old. The key things that elevate this experience is accommodation. So we know this is an important part of the trip, but we try to keep it fun and boutique and local. We'll have at least one feature stay on a trip, which is our really wow, awesome accommodation that speaks to the local cultural and architectural style. So we actually stay in a madrasa in Uzbekistan, which is an Islamic college for instruction. There's no more students attending this college anymore. The rooms have been converted into hotel style accommodations, but you really get to experience an important part of Uzbekistan's culture and history. And Uzbekistan was actually our fastest growing destination in 2019. Crazy.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. I would not have guessed that, but that's very cool.
Yeah. And it's not to say it was our biggest destination, it was just fastest growing. So the regions of the Stans and the Middle East were definitely on the rise. And we actually see that for North American travelers, so those in Canada and the US, specifically in Canada as well, our number one destination has been Morocco over the years, the past 7 years. Yeah. Turkey has been high on the list, Jordan, Egypt, Israel, and Palestinian territory. So North Americans really love that region. It's different. You get a little bit of culture shock. It's beautiful.
Totally. It's kind of like a foreign world. Like it looks completely different from Canada. And I love that. I can't wait to visit some of those places. So definitely, I get that. So you mentioned some of like Intrepid's community tourism projects. I don't know if you want to share any of those with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll skip on through and just show you a little bit about our projects here as well, just a little visual. So we have the Intrepid Foundation at Intrepid Travel, and this is our not-for-profit arm. It's been around for quite a while, since 2002, and none of Intrepid's experiences are volunteerism per se, but on some trips you may get to visit or impact these Intrepid Foundation projects. When we start working with these projects, we make sure that they align with Intrepid so that we're benefiting them in a positive way. And we're not trying to cover too many bases at Intrepid. So it has to be really in line with what we do. But these projects, they do receive donations from travelers, from Intrepid staff, from people from all around the world. And when you donate the money to the project, we give 100% of that directly to the projects, and it goes directly to the projects to use for the purposes. And I'll give you some examples. So one that I've actually visited myself is Koto, Koto, and it's in Vietnam. And it was actually created by a local leader. So a leader that used to lead trips for Intrepid in Vietnam. He left Intrepid, started this project, and it is a restaurant. And in the restaurant, there's a kitchen, there's a bar, and he brings in people or young people, so teenagers, young 20s, into the kitchen, into a sort of training program. So after 2 years, if they complete their training, they are given assistance to move on to work in the hospitality industry, in hotels, in bars and restaurants.
Cool.
The people that are brought into this program are typically street kids who don't have a lot of access to resources, are possibly getting into trouble, and wouldn't have many opportunities otherwise beyond that. So when they get brought into the training program, they learn skills either in the kitchen, front of house, hospitality at the bar. And then all that hard work they put into their training, they actually serve and host Intrepid travelers as well as other travelers. So it's a restaurant that anyone can attend and visit for dinner. Intrepid travelers get to come in, sit down for a wonderful dining experience, and these students get to practice their skills.
That's
and they have
cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. The food's delicious. The drinks are delicious. They're always smiling. They're really happy to be there. And they have a really high success rate where a lot of them go on to work in the travel industry afterwards, in the hospitality industry.
That's really neat. And I love that sort of forward thinking mentality of like, let's train these kids so that they can then be successful in the future. And that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually one that's really hits close to home right now during the pandemic is our Give a World a Shot Intrepid Foundation project.
Okay.
So we partnered with UNICEF and have raised funds for the UNICEF's Give a World a Shot campaign. And it's focused right now at raising funds to get vaccinations into small rural communities and communities around the world that don't have access. So we're really privileged to live in Canada because if we want to get a vaccine, we can do it. It's very easy to access. But in places like outside of rural Cusco in Peru, where the porters live that take travelers through the Inca Trail and are an imperative part of the experience, don't have access to those sort of things. So UNICEF has raised money to get the vaccines and also have the crew to carry them into those really rural areas, set up vaccination sites, because we know that in the travel industry, we do really need the vaccine and travelers to be vaccinated and local people to be vaccinated in order for us to get out there and travel safely.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You're so right. Like once we can get more of the world sort of globally vaccinated, I think travel will rebound even faster.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So maybe tell us a bit more about the B-Corp certification, because I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I'm sure, maybe not as many people are familiar with what it actually means and how rigorous it actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the B-Corp certification, and if you haven't heard of this before, to anyone who's tuning in right now, not to worry, you'll probably hear more about it after today. You'll start noticing the symbol a little bit more. But the B-Corp certification is a third-party certification, and it's given to companies who go through a really rigorous process, who are looking out for people and planet. So right now there's about just shy of 4,000 B-Corp companies, and it's across about 166 different industries. So it's not just travel, and on all different continents. So in Canada, in the US, Colombia, Peru, Asia, there's B-Corps all over the world. Now the process is really rigorous and laborious, as the world's largest travel company, we have offices all over the world. We send travelers around the globe. There's a lot of different working pieces. So we thought it was going to take 3 months to become certified. It actually took 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So it looks into everything. So it looks into your recycling program. So it looked into our recycling program in Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, it doesn't really have the same infrastructure as, say, Canada. So one of the team members in our office had to take all the recycling and drive it at the end of the week to a recycling plant, which is about an hour away in order to do that. It looks into how you negotiate contracts. So when we work with local communities in, say, Myanmar or in the Amazon rainforest, we have to show that both parties, Intrepid Travel and our local team at Intrepid in Peru, as well as the indigenous population, that they both were knowledgeable enough and were across both sides and signed and negotiated in a fair way so that each party would be positively impacted, versus, say, a large company in Canada taking advantage of a small rural community, or not even knowing that they're taking advantage. Right, because the community signed something. It looks into how you're taking care of the environment. So again, being carbon offset, and in the future looking to reduce that even further. Our animal welfare policies, like I mentioned earlier about elephant riding being banned. We've also developed different, I guess you could say, resources for different companies to also help them decarbonize their business and have animal welfare practices in place. So basically, it's a big process, looks into everything. It also looks into your travelers. So our travelers were also communicated with, and we did lots of investigation into how they felt about their experiences, as well as our staff as well. So it's a lot.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is it doesn't just say you're doing good, it points out where you can be doing better.
Right.
So in 2018, we scored 82.7 out of 100. And to be considered a B Corp, you need at least an 80. Okay. And in 2021, we went through the process again to be recertified. And we scored a 91.2. So
wow, that's a big increase.
Yeah, so since 2018, we've increased our B Corp score over 10%. So it's really exciting.
Wow. Yeah. And I imagine, that took a lot of diving into those areas that they had originally told you might maybe could do better. And how do you little minute changes that really make a big impact? Yeah, absolutely. It's a very cool process to be a part of. Yeah, I'm sure. It seems pretty intense. Yeah. And I was mentioning this to you before, Hannah, as well. Yeah. For those of us who may not be as familiar with B Corp, since we became B Corp certified, I see B Corp everywhere. And essentially, if I'm looking at a product in the grocery store or a product online, and I want to find the best one, maybe the product says, oh, this is printed on recycled paper, or the ink is made of vegetable ink. Or if I buy this pair of shoes, a pair is given to someone who doesn't have a pair of shoes somewhere else. So I'm starting to notice those differences. I just actually have a show and tell of different B Corp products I have in my home. So first off, Patagonia clothing is a B Corp. This is a Patagonia vest right here. So they do some fantastic things. You can wear a B Corp. I have a juice from Greenhouse Juice. They're also B Corp, so they make organic plant-based juices. They're delicious. Awesome. My favorite household beauty care brand or hair care, I have Ethique. They do shampoo bars, face wash bars, body wash bars. Oh, neat. So it's no plastic, and their packaging is compostable as well. So you can just put it in the compost. Oh, that's perfect. Same thing with lip balm. You know how many lip balms you always have lying around? Compostable tube. My vitamins are also B Corp. And my favorite, especially if you like smoothies, you can freeze your bananas or put your leftovers in the fridge in these Stasher reusable silicone bags. Oh, cool. I love those. Those are great. Yeah, they're so fun, and they're portable, and they're lightweight. Yeah. And you just wash them and reuse them. So a few things in my house that are B Corp as well. I love that. And you're right. Like I think the B Corp is everywhere. And once you start to see that symbol, you'll notice it like on so many products, which is great.
Yeah. And if I relate it back to travel as well, because I know sometimes we get the question about what does carbon offsetting actually mean and how are you doing this on trips? Just a couple really relatable things. In Rwanda and Uganda, on one of our premium trips, we stay in this beautiful windy park lodge. So during the day, our travelers can go off and do gorilla trekking. We include gorilla trekking permits in our trip. In the evening, we actually get to sit down with some park rangers, so rangers who look after the gorillas in the park. And then this is the resort that we stay at, and it's been named one of Uganda's leading safari lodges year after year. But they have solar panels and they do rainwater reharvesting. So because of this and a few other factors that they incorporate, they're also a carbon neutral lodge. So it's a really great way to stay and for our travelers to see that as well.
That's awesome. I love that you partner with other businesses who are also in that same mindset as Intrepid.
Exactly. Anywhere you can kind of make those small changes, but also support businesses that are doing good things as well.
Right.
On a transportation front, which is one of the more boring topics to talk about, I'd say, but with transportation, we've tried to eliminate joy flights or short flights that aren't super necessary on trips, because that's an easy way to take out carbon emissions. So on our premium Cambodia trip, we travel from Phnom Penh to Siem Reap, and that route, it's typically done by flight, it's a short flight, but it doesn't really add much to the experience except carbon emissions. So we included a tunnel sap river cruise. So our travelers get to take a comfortable river cruise. It's just for the day, but they get to see a part of Cambodian life that most travelers just skip over because that flight is just so common.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. That's what an interesting experience.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last one was, again, about the environment, but in Iceland, such a popular destination to travel to. On our premium trip, but also on a lot of our Iceland trips in the summer months, we have an experience where travelers can do some tree planting.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, because Iceland has suffered from deforestation, because when the first settlers came over, they made way for pastures, and the deforestation has led to obviously a lack of trees, but then also erosion. So in the Holsevor Valley, a couple of the eco lodges that we stay at have partnered together to do some tree planting on their property to help out with carbon emissions, but also offer a little bit of a project for people to get their hands dirty. Cool. So yeah, totally optional, only in the summer because of the great winters that you get in Iceland.
Yeah. That'd be a little hard to dig in the winter time.
Yeah.
So I know we're jumping around a little bit, but maybe, I don't know, with this new recertification for Intrepid, where are some areas that you're hoping to continue to improve, or like, what is the future of sustainability for Intrepid?
Yes. So for us, one of the big things is advocacy. And we really want to lift up other tour operators and other people in the industry. Because it's great that we're doing such fantastic things, but for the last couple of years, we've been really focused on sharing our knowledge and sharing how to decarbonize your business, sharing our animal welfare practices, and being kind of and partnership to look to when you want to be a little bit better. So like for yourself, Hannah, there's been a lot of amazing travel advisors who reach out and they say, I want to talk to my clients more about picking a more sustainable vacation, or how can they make a positive impact in destination. So that's a very key focus for us. The other thing that's very simple, but also very complicated is lowering carbon emissions.
Right.
So that's something that we continuously look at, and that goes into the building every trip. But let's face it, as a traveler, we're traveling. So there are some flights involved. There's some transportation involved. You know, there's all those little things that we're trying to mitigate. And the third key thing is to continue with being focused on people. So having positive impact on the local communities we visit, having fantastic local leaders, making sure that we're hiring and training, and also reaching out to more women in communities. So having a good gender split in places that it's more challenging to get female leaders. So in Morocco and Iran and Jordan and India and Cambodia. So those are a few key things.
No, that's incredible. It's truly a never-ending process. Even if your score, gets higher and higher and higher, there's always ways to be better. So yeah, I love that you are constantly thinking about, the minute changes that make a big impact. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I have one more question for you, and it's more of a personal question, but I mean, you've obviously done a lot of Intrepid trips, but what is your favorite trip to do?
Yeah, so that's probably the most difficult question you could ask, because I think every trip that I do with Intrepid is wonderful and different and has like a highlight, and it's amazing in one certain way versus another. But I would have to say perhaps my favorite trip, if I were just to pick one today, I would just say my Vietnam trip.
Okay.
I did our Vietnam Express southbound trip in 2020, right before the pandemic. So in December and January, yeah. And it's actually, the trip that I did was the #1 trip in Intrepid's history. It operates pre-pandemic. It operated so frequently. It was always fully booked. It was always one of the top trips. And going into this trip, I had some of my own highlights. I wanted to see Halong Bay, and I wanted to see Ho Chi Minh City, and all these things. And I obviously wanted to try the food because I love Vietnamese food at home in Canada. But what ended up being my favorite experience was something that wasn't even written on the itinerary. When I was first told about the opportunity to do this day trip, it didn't sound that exciting. And I went and did it. It ended up being my highlight. So we were in Hue, actually we're in Hoi An. We were in Hoi An for the day, had a free day, and our local leader said, we've got some optional activities. If you want to go out and do this, that, we can set it up for you. And a bunch of our group members wanted to do it. So I figured I'd do it. So it explained to me as this. It was going to be a cycling tour to the island near Hoi An, and we would try some rice wine, we would make some mattresses, and we would eat some noodles. And I was like, okay, great, I'll do it. So we got our bikes, we cycled over to the ferry to take us to the island, and the ferry was literally a raft boat. We put our bikes on it. It was only our group, so it was really small. And then we went over a 5-minute journey across the water to get to the island. We got to the island, there were no cars on the island. We started cycling around through rice paddy fields. And we got to our first stop, which was a mattress stop. It ended up being weaving traditional mattresses on the floor. Wow. So yeah, it was really fun. It was really interesting. The host that we had, the local woman, was just smiling and great. The next stop was probably our I would say our highlight. We went to do rice wine tasting, and we heard that this was the most famous rice wine maker on this island. The island's very small, Hannah, so it was, yeah.
Might be the only rice wine maker on the island.
We went into his home, we did a little tour and saw where the rice wine was made. We got to try some. Then we went into the living room of the home, and our local leader said, the owner is actually here if you want to chat with him. And we said, of course. So he came out, found out that he fought in the Vietnam War. He didn't speak English. Everything was gone through our local leader. And our local leader said, he also plays guitar and he's really good. So he brought out his guitar, he started playing along, told us stories about his life and the Vietnam War. And then he passed the guitar around to our group. And a couple of the guys came in, ended up being like a kumbaya circle. So we're in a Vietnam War vet's home on a small little island off the coast of Hoi An, playing guitar, drinking rice wine.
Wow.
And it's something we never would have expected to experience. To top it off, after that, we ended up going to eat the rice noodles, which we got to make ourselves.
Cool.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding than getting to make your own food and eating it.
Wow, what a cool experience. Like you said, it's just, you would never find that on your own. You would never, expect something like that to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So cool. Oh, well, it definitely makes me want to travel with Intrepid. I can't wait until we can all get out there and travel again.
Yeah.
Very soon. Thank you so much for sharing today with us all about Intrepid Travel and about your wonderful trips and your incredible sustainability policies. I'm really excited to share Intrepid with as many travelers as I can. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for having me, and I hope to have you on a trip soon.
Yes, me too. I hope so. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Travel Better with Kazundra Brown from Intrepid Travel. If you want to learn more about Intrepid, check out their website and their social media. I'll link those below. And follow along as I chat with other sustainable and responsible tour operators and learn how you can travel better and make a positive impact wherever you go. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.